Hi, I'm Carol O'Mara, horticulture entomologist with Colorado State University Extension here in Boulder County. After a really long, lazy summer, we're finally enjoying a lot of tomatoes coming off the vine. But as September starts to get into the middle of the month, we are staring at some days that might start getting a little too cold for our love apples. And we're going to have to start making a decision as to whether we're going to cover them with frost protection or if we're going to start thinking about storing some green tomatoes for use in the winter. We're pretty familiar with tomatoes as they ripen up. As you can see here, we've got some beautiful big beefsteak tomatoes like this stump of the world. It's ready to roll and we can eat it right now. But some of the whites and some of the oranges are coming along too, and we're enjoying those. But how do you tell when you can harvest a green tomato and have it store pretty well, or if it's already starting to color up and you need to put it on the counter for it to finish the job? Well, you need to use your senses on this one and take a look at color. As I said, if the tomato's red and ripe, about 90% ripened, it'll finish coloring up for you in about a day or two on your counter. But take a look as your tomatoes are starting to just change color. We have this one down here. It's a green tomato, but it's mature green. You can see down at the base it's starting to go just a little bit white. Then we're going to get into a slight color shift on them. These are called the breaker stage. In the breaker stage, and I'll show you with this tomato here, the big difference is you can see here, right at the blossom end, it's beginning to color up very nicely. These are going to be kind of an orange blush tomato, but it's just starting from the blossom end, and then the color is shifting all the way along the tomato itself. As it gets into breaker stage, these will ripen on your counter in about 14 days. So it'll take about 2 weeks for your tomatoes to be ready to use. But if you have them just a little bit farther on, so they're colored up about 60% like this one, these are going to be finished and ready for eating in about 7 days. The ones that are already in color, the ones that are at breaker stage, use these right away. But the mature green ones, the ones that have gone from kind of a dull dark green to more of a glossy lighter green with a bit of a white bottom to them, these are the ones that you harvest, wrap individually in newspaper, and store in a box in a cool room at about 55 degrees. They'll hold for several months. All you have to do is just pull one out when you need it, unwrap it, and wait about 14 days for it to ripen up on your counter. These mature greens are the ones that we really like to eat in the middle of winter when we start dreaming of summer again. Now, if they are immature, in other words, they're a little young like this one back here, immature ones, they're never going to ripen up for you inside. You might as well just go ahead and pull those as frost threatens, chop them up for salsas, or go ahead and fry them up as a nice fried green tomato. Let's take a look at one trick that's handy for harvesting green tomatoes from the heirloom plants, so you're not tearing the plant apart when you're doing it. If you're growing heirloom tomatoes, one thing to be aware of is that the stem that attaches the tomato to the vine is shaped a little bit differently than those for the hybrid tomatoes. This can make harvesting a bit of a problem for us because it tears instead of cleanly slides from the vine itself. What I'm talking about is a knuckle. The stem comes in from the plant here, and then it kind of swells out a little bit and attaches to the top vine of the tomato right here. This knuckle is actually a pretty tough little customer, and it's hard to pull the tomato from the vine, especially if they're green. Ripened tomatoes very often will slide right off, but when we're harvesting these green tomatoes, the ones that we're going to be wrapping in newspaper and storing for later, the last thing you want to do is reach in there and yank it off. Go ahead and get your pruners out and neatly trim them from the vine. Then your tomato is going to be ready for wrapping in newspaper and storing for winter. I'm Carol O'Mara. Happy gardening.